Listen, you scoffed a little bit when I said Chicago's the greatest city in the world.
Did I?
I feel you did.
No.
Am I not entitled to my feelings?
Okay. All right. I'm not gaslighting you.
Okay. Well, they did have gaslights at this time, so just saying here. Okay?
This is when it was invented.
They literally...
Actually, the concept.
They kind of invented it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Remember Arnold Schwarzenegger?
That not your best accent.
I never said it. I
love that you're so good at Trump, but that one. Let's hear a little more.
Good morning. How are you?
You're kind of French.
That is how Arnold Schwarzenegger speaks.
Okay.
And he ain't French.
That's
Tell you
true.
That. His dad was, well, you look it up, okay?
Well,
what his dad was up to.
Speaking of just riveting public figures.
And politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this brings us to our Capone arc, everybody.
Everyone is big on limited series.
They really are.
We had to get a piece of that.
We did.
You know, it's like, okay, yeah, we do incredible work week in, week out, right?
There's something like almost more prestigious about it being like a mini series.
That's what we're going for. Pure class.
Pure class.
Pure class.
So yes, we are going over 10 episodes to explore the character of Al Capone.
The life of Al Capone. Maybe you've heard of him?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Right.
And we're on episode 2. Now, just to point out, we're going to do a lot of side quests in this arc. It's not just about Capone. It's about the people around him that made him who he is.
There are going to be main story missions. Yes. You know?
So let's review where we are coming from.
New York.
There we are, baby.
You know,
Mom Donnie's New York.
You know what? And this guy moved on out of New York, which I think some other fellas... No one's going to do that. But yeah, Al Capone famously, like me, made his way from New York to Chicago, in my case via Maine. Al Capone...
I'm just now realizing you've really built your whole personality on this guy.
I mean, the psychopathic killer.
Is that why you moved there?
To be like Al Capone?
Well, your interest in the mob.
No, it was darker than that, why I moved there. But we won't get into that today.
We can't get into that
today. We can't possibly get into that today. But rest assured, it was more depressing than that. No.
How is that possible?
I'll let that cliffhanger dangle there, and you can fill it in with your own imagination. But Al Capone did, as I and many other troubled young men did, move to Chicago. In his case, admittedly, to escape the consequences of handing out a beating to Crisscross Finnegan.
Crisscross Finnegan, one of my favorite names.
Such a great name. Who, now, did he beat him up over a slur against the Italians in a pool hall? Was it over a pool game? It's lost to history, but what is for sure is that the Irish gang he belonged to said, we're going to fucking kill this guy. So Al Capone, over time, starts skedaddling over to Chicago through the auspices of his good friend, Frankie Yale, his mentor, his psychopathic older brother, who we talked about last time, who runs a bar as the Undertaker of Brooklyn, mob boss extraordinaire. Now, Frankie Yale is the guy who got Al Capone to Chicago. But the men that we're really going to talk about today are the men who were decisive in turning Al Capone to the huge mob boss that he was. And what I think is really interesting about this story is not just that we get to talk about Chicago, which is my favorite city in the... I was going to say the country. It's my favorite city in the world.
Okay.
Which,
wow.
You know, at least that I've been to, you know. And you're looking at me like you need your fucking head examined, pal, you know.
I'm not saying anything, okay?
Yeah. Omerta, it's called. Okay?
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
So we're not just that we get to talk about Chicago and the, you know, the city famously was described by Nelson Algren as a broken-nosed beauty. Like
I love that.
That's a great description of it, right? So we don't just get to talk about that, but we get to talk about what I view as an immigrant story and two men who typify different ways of being immigrants, right? On the one hand, you have a guy who, sort of barely assimilates. And then on the other hand, you have a guy who becomes more American than the Americans and sort of marries the old world with the new world. And which way is Al Capone going to go? I don't think it's hugely climactic which
Keep
way.
listening.
But listen on to find out.
Now, having done this with you a bit now, I have a feeling we're going to go slightly back in time. Al Capone moves to Chicago, 1920?
Yes.
Okay.
The history of Chicago, though.
Okay. Oh, my God.
You asked. Do you not want to know now?
Did I?
That's a good question.
But we're starting this story in 1895.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, let's go back a little earlier here, right? 1895 is the era when Italian immigration into the United States really kicks up a notch, right? Started in the 1880s, 1890s, as does Jewish immigration,
And
actually.
Why is that?
Part of it is that, Italy has been reorganized into a state. Southern Italy is being left behind. It still is relatively left behind. It's the poorest part of Italy. And the people emigrating from Italy are almost exclusively from the south, including a Calabrian, Calabria being the toe of the boot of Italy, Vincenzo Colosimo.
Oh,
Vincenzo Colosimo.
that's beautiful.
That's an accent I can't do. But
it speaks to me,
But
it's just in my soul.
It's such a nice language.
It really
is. The thing, Now, he is 17 years old at the time he emigrates. And some accounts, he emigrates with his family and others without. But he is 17 years old. He finds himself in a rooming house on North Clark Street. Here's a detail I love, that his first job listed next to his name in some of the records is magician. And here's the even more disturbing aspect
First
to
of
it.
all, that's disturbing now when it's considered a job.
Oh, yeah.
But back then?
Yes. And here's the other thing about it. I can't find any more information on that. Do you know how disturbing that is to have it just dangling out there that he describes?
Especially for someone like you.
Like, he's a magician and I can't find out anything more about that?
Like, what type of magic?
This is what I mean. Like, what does that mean?
Is he cutting women in half?
Later, actually, but we'll get to that in due time. But this is a guy who, this is a true Horatio Alger, American dream type story of the sort that Chicago is built on, because this guy is going to become probably the most important mob boss in Chicago, the one who bequeaths us the entire outfit from his humble beginnings as a magician. And it is
He's
a type
making
of
magic, folks.
Listen, maybe the magic was the mob fun we had along the way, So, listen, you scoffed a little bit when I said Chicago's the greatest city on the world.
Did I?
I feel you did.
No.
Am I not entitled to my feelings?
Okay. All right. I'm not gaslighting you.
Okay. Well, they did have gaslights at this time, so just saying here. Okay.
This is when it was invented.
They literally,
actually, the concept.
They kind of invented it. But you have familial ties to Chicago. You spent a summer there and hated it, I think.
It's really hot, we've got to say.
And humid.
Yeah.
Listen.
The architecture is incredible.
You're hitting upon the duality of Chicago, right? Which is the Beaux Arts buildings, the birthplace of modern American architecture, all these beautiful buildings, and the fact that it's a cesspit rising up out of the muck based upon graft and corruption. As one reform alderman put it, Chicago is unique. It is the only completely corrupt city in America, right? So it rises out of the mud. It's named for the stinky onion grass that grows around it. The Native Americans are expelled from it in 1832. The booze industry is what Chicago is based around, and the fact that it is the trade crossroads for the United States after a certain point due to the rise of the Erie Canal and then later the railroads, right? And so, as you said, there's this duality of the high society, sort of waspy Yankees who move out there to make their fortunes, and they are the upper crust and they run things. And then all the many teeming masses of immigrants who go straight there are penned up in these slums separated by the rivers and the railroads from the downtown. And this hypocrisy exists forever. And it is also, I should say, the vice capital of the country without question for decades. More than New Orleans, San Francisco.
Really?
Absolutely. Because in no small part, as Vincenzo Colosimo finds, making his way in this new city, the economy there, at least among the immigrants, right? All these slums I'm talking about, is based on alcohol. Now, we should take a look at what Jim Colosimo, as the name he adopted later, looks like, because I think we'll get an impression of him. Now, this is him on the left at the height of his power.
Amazing.
How would you describe him?
So what era is this?
I would say this is around probably 1910 or so.
Yeah. Incredible sort of 1910-ish suit. Sorry if that, the double-breasted, huge collar.
Yep.
Top hat, cane, giant mustache.
Yeah. He's what would have been called a mustache Pete, an old-fashioned style Italian.
Yeah.
Right? He never quite knew English, with huge fluency, but he was quite a likable fellow. And he goes from
He seems very cool. We'll say that too. He's got some swag.
He's a handsome, sort of strong-looking fella. At the height of his power, he has Colosimo's on Wabash Street. This is a prime restaurant that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And he marries into the business world with his wife, Victoria Moresco, who was a looker in her younger years.
It's hard to tell from
Not
this
here,
photo.
maybe. I'm sorry to say, but how did he make this leap, you might ask?
Yeah, because let's just say this drawing of this restaurant is opulent.
Very much so. Well, this is because, like I said, the power in Chicago, the political power, right? It's in that waspy business class, but in the slums, it's in the saloon, right? It's around alcohol. Saloons dominate Chicago for most of its, still to this day. You go there, you're going to see people falling down drunk, in a way that's just not the case.
Yeah, but a saloon has a certain je ne sais quoi that the bar doesn't quite have.
They're incredibly violent. They're named things like Bucket of Blood because,
That's so punk rock.
You're going to be sweeping up eyeballs at the end of the night, this sort of thing. Like, it's one crazy mofo after another coming in.
So you make your money in the saloons so that you can have a restaurant like Colosimo's.
And that's right. And it's all kept...
Colosimo's, excuse me.
It's all kept humming by the guys we're going to see next, who are... Obviously, the Irish get there first.
Yes, this is a thing we see again.
We talk about this over and over. And boy, these characters. Okay. Here we have Michael Hinky Dink Kenna on the left, and John Coughlin, better known as Bathhouse John, on the right. Now, these two guys...
very different vibe from
Let's talk about
Jim.
the vibe here.
Let's say that. This is a scary vibe.
What do you think of these guys?
They haven't slept maybe ever. They're still drunk. They're you know what I'm saying? It's that kind of thing where you meet up with them and it's like, are you just that hungover or are you just always drunk? I can't tell the difference.
Right. Eyes. This is Trump at the Oval Office desk, asleep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So pickled.
They're also the two type of Irishmen. Like the one, Hinky Dink Kenna is the little Irishman. Bathhouse John is the big Bill O'Reilly type, which, sorry to say, is also my archetype.
Yeah, I was curious which one you were going to be.
I'm not Hinky Dink, I'll tell you that. Now, who the fuck are these guys? What do they have to do with Jim Colosimo? Well, on the right, you see a caricature from one of the newspapers of what they derive their power from. This is the height of their social calendar, the First Ward Ball, which they hold every Christmas. The First Ward is their fiefdom, their area of power. It moves over time, but it is first in the Loop, the downtown area of Chicago. Later, it moves a bit south. And this is the ward on which Coughlin and Kenna are the aldermen. That's the Chicago term for city councilor, right? And they keep the bribes.
Legitimately city councilors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, these guys are elected officials.
Oh, that kind of says it all.
And it's going to get even weirder, okay? They have this ball. By the end of it, by the last one that they have, it's so big it fits in the Chicago Coliseum, where they invite every criminal in the city to a big party where they have to pay tribute for the year's bribes. And they're going to keep bribes going throughout the year, but at this time in the early 1900s, we're talking $25,000 to $50,000 each ball, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars today, right?
What a fun party to be invited to.
Oh, they have to shut it down because it's so disgusting. That's in Chicago. Like it's.
Wow.
I mean, imagine every criminal fitting into a Coliseum, right? This is what happens, right? And this speaks to the system that these guys institute in the First Ward, which importantly contains the levee district. The levee district is the red light district. Now, you talked about this weird bifurcation between the beautiful architecture and all this scumminess, right? The muddy streets, under the willow, this saloon where it's most depraved shit imaginable happening. And that's because the sex trade in Chicago is the biggest in the country by far, right?
So bigger than alcohol there, or they go hand in hand?
They sort of go hand in hand, right? But I would say before Prohibition, the sex trade is bigger, which is not an easy thing in a city that drinks as much.
And at this time, was that kind of true in every city or particularly Chicago?
Let's put it this way. It was so bad in Chicago that a German prince visits and like his whole schedule gets derailed by what he's doing in the levee district.
Clear my schedule. I've got some things to do in Chicago.
Now, what's interesting is these guys are idiots. I mean, Kenna is smarter than Coughlin, I will say.
And Kenna is
Hinky Dink.
Hinky Dink. I almost called him Rinky Dink.
He's called Hinky Dink because he's short.
Yeah, I got that.
He's a short king. Coughlin, on the other hand, this is a side quest. We have to take a brief side quest to talk about Coughlin. Coughlin, first off, would dress like a circus clown everywhere he goes, but he also was a poet.
Oh, of course.
And he would write poetry. And
I can only imagine how good it is.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I simply need to read some of it to you.
Can't wait.
The first one is called, by Bathhouse John Coughlin, Ode to a Bowl of Soup.
Oh, boy.
O bowl of soup, to thee I lift my voice in gladsome song. Nothing can touch the spot like what the French call bouillon. I like you as mulligatawny, noodles, or consommé. It cheers me when I see the sign proclaiming hot soup all day.
Wow. That sounds like AI.
Oh, they didn't have AI back then. That was all up there.
That was all up there.
An ode to a bathtub. I wish I was a bird. These are some of the other hits he wrote.
So inspired. He's really taking on the issues of the day.
Yeah. So this is what this guy's up to. And you might ask, well, how the fuck did this idiot get to this spot, right? But here's why. Not just the money, right? The talent spotting, right? Jim Colosimo, they eventually notice this guy. He organizes the street sweepers. He becomes a street sweeper, starts organizing them, and they realize this guy is smart and he's useful and he can be our link to the Italians and to the sex trade potentially later because he also starts pimping. That's another thing Jim Colosimo gets into, right? And by his height, growing in the sex trade, he's making $500,000 a year. Talking again, early 1900s is millions now. He's useful to Hinky Dink and Bathhouse John. He can funnel the votes to them through this union he's got going, right? And he can also shake down. He's also an intimidating guy. He can shake down the other brothels.
So at this time, you were a known criminal and you were an elected official. Now we know. Well, is it really that different?
Is it that different? I ask you. Take, for instance, the Everly sisters. The Everly sisters run the classiest brothel in the Levee District. And here they are, Ada and Minna Everly. This is the ballroom in the Everly Club. And this is where the 1% goes for their fun, right? But there are, by 1910, I've seen estimates ranging from 119 brothels in the Levy district to many more, anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 sex workers working in this place, right? In this district. And Colosimo continues his rise in it. He shakes down them for, the Everly sisters later say they pay $100,000 a year to the political machine through Colosimo.
To stay open. And they still retire wealthy. So they're doing well. Colosimo continues his rise. 1902, he marries Victoria, who we saw earlier, who runs 2 brothels. So that's her business. So out of every $2 that his girls are earning, according to John Kobler, he kept $1.20. And this speaks to, let's put aside the Everly Club for a minute, right? This is out of the ordinary, right? Yeah, this looks like a palace.
Right. That's okay. That exists. That's famous. Everyone knows that. Much more common is what they call bedbug row.
Oh, God.
You get the idea. And this is the dark side of Jim Colosimo. Oh, Mr. Charming, Mr. Handsome, and all that, right? I cannot emphasize enough how brutal this red light district is, right? And that they have a system called the cadet system, where Colosimo has agents throughout the country, men, whose job is to trick women into coming to Chicago, where they're going to be forced into
sex trafficking.
Exactly, sexual slavery, and this is what his wealth is actually based on, right? And so if there's 100 brothels, 1,000 brothels, it doesn't matter. It's well stocked with women being tricked and forced into this, right? And by 1910, it's gotten so bad, so excessive, that there's actually a law passed, the Mann Act, which is still on the books today. P. Diddy was tried under it. You can't traffic women over state lines for the immoral purposes, they call it, right? And that's a direct consequence of Jim Colosimo.
Just keep it within the state.
I mean, well, that's to make it a federal crime that they can go after, because the locals aren't going to do anything about it, right? So here's what always happens. And this is the great genius of Hinky Dink Kenna, right? When there's a tide of reform coming in, he lets it come in. Like, we'll wait it out. We're still going to be here when they're gone.
That's a good strategy.
It's, he was a sophisticated guy, right? And Jim Colosimo has that idea too. All right, so the Levy district gets destroyed in the early 1910s, finally, when there's a reform mayor coming in. So what does he do? One, he moves his brothel south, which will be important later, further south into the sticks. The second is he starts really getting into his restaurant.
And is it just an above board restaurant?
This actually is.
Okay.
And it rocks.
It's a good restaurant.
It is. He has a world-class Italian chef come in. He has a cellar of wine that is the envy of the city. And Ben Heck, the journalist, says in one account, he can't believe the array of imported cheeses. He says it's more cheese than he ever saw. I have to read this ad from the John Binder book on it. A la carte service at all times. Public dancing. Refined cabaret. 1 million yards of spaghetti always on hand. I've never heard spaghetti described that way. I mean, yeah.
But you know what's interesting about this? Normally when we hear these stories about the mobsters, they're like addicted to crime.
Right.
There are no businesses they have that they don't start.
If the base, yeah, it's a very interesting point, and it's going to be important later. If Colosimo's whole thing is he uses the sex trade to sort of get to a legitimate status.
Yeah, it's a means to an end to be a legitimate
And he
guy.
has this restaurant now where Al Jolson's coming in, and Enrico Caruso and the Chicago Opera, and Diamond Jim is there in his suit with his bag of diamonds. He had a hobby of having a bag of uncut diamonds and playing with it in public.
That's also, remember the, I'm forgetting what mobster it was that would like put their hands
That's
in.
Capone in the Rosewater. Yeah.
That was Capone.
That was Capone.
Wow.
So part of it is just to do awesome
wonder where
shit
he
like
got
that.
that.
Where did he get this,
God,
right?
I'm going to start doing this as a power move, just loose diamonds. It's like it's a fidget spinner.
Well,
it's an OG fidget
I
spinner.
was doing this, and then the tariffs hit me very hard, actually.
Yeah, down to cubic zirconias now, just.
It's fool's gold, frankly, I'm down. I can't even have my costume jewelry. So he's made it, right? But here's the problem. when you're the boss of a criminal organization, you have to keep being one.
That's what I'm saying.
And so what we're going to find is Diamond Jim, he's going to attract the attention of some criminals who don't like restaurants, who don't like the good life. And he's going to need to look to new allies to combat that. And that is going to be letting the fox in the hen house.
So things are going to get a little hairy for Colosimo, I'm assuming.
And we're not talking about his mustache, which...
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful mustache.
Yeah.
Simply is.
It is.
It's a Super Mario mustache.
It's incredible.
To be a man who could pull off that mustache,
My husband has a mustache right now.
Is it?
I can't say it's on that level. I'm sorry, Rafi, if you're listening.
Listen, hey, look, Jewish excellence with the Elliot Gould sort of, it's a different thing.
It's a different thing.
Vibe,
the Italians got the mustaches on lock.
But listen, this is Diamond Jim. He may be at the top of his game. He has the beautiful restaurant. He has the million yards of spaghetti.
He has the loose diamonds.
But so everyone else knows he has all that.
Yeah, it's a little ostentatious, maybe?
People want a piece. It's like, what do NFL players have to worry about when they go out, they flash a lot of cash, a lot of jewelry? They have to worry about getting robbed. They have to worry about their houses getting broken into. This is a thing that happens today.
Kim Kardashian
had this happen, right? In Paris.
Yeah, she was like posting her and these jewels and they just followed.
This has not changed. And in the same way, Jim Colosimo attracts the attention of low-level criminals using the extortion method called the Black Hand. Now, the Black Hand is quite well known. Often it's mistakenly considered an organization that's a pre-runner to the mafia.
Yeah, is it an organization or a tactic or both?
It's more a tactic. Now, If you see The Godfather Part 2, Don Fanucci, the mobster in the neighborhood that the young Vito Corleone goes up against, they describe him as the Black Hand, right? He's an extortionist. He shakes down people, right? And Jim Colosimo starts getting these Black Hand letters. And we should take a look at a real example of a Black Hand letter because it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is real. And there are collections online, and there's a great book that you can look up all these real examples in it. So it's written in Italian. It has the most noticeable thing, of course, what at the bottom?
Illustrations that represent a black hand, a little hand, a knife. Is that a devil? I don't know what that is.
I think something like that.
Some crosses.
3 crosses, meaning like we're going to kill 3 people.
Oh.
And here's what it means in Italian, right? This is the second time I've warned you. Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning at the corner of 2nd and 3rd, bring $300 without fail. Otherwise, we will set fire to you and blow you up with a bomb. Consider this matter well, for this is the last warning I will give you. I sign the Black Hand. So, this is happening in New York. It's happening in Chicago. It's happening in any city with a sizable Italian community in the early 1900s. And it's not an empty threat. There are dozens of murders relating to Black Hand extortion threats, many bombings too. That sounds like bullshit, and it's not, right? Dozens of bombs blown up in the first few months of 1913. In May 1908, there's a story about all these Italian mothers crowding a Chicago school because it's been threatened with a bomb. Enrico Caruso, the opera singer, most famous singer in the world, he is subjected to these extortions. And now Jim Colosimo is as well.
So at this time, is the Black Hand different from extortion, or is it just the term that's used to describe it?
It's the method, right? It's these anonymous letters like, you have to give me this money or we're going to kill you.
Right. But if something like that happened to me today, would I say it was Black Hand extortion or just...
No. And in fact, because it's associated with the Italian immigrant community, that's what makes it specifically that. It does date to Italy. Interestingly, I will say, a lot of non-Italians would do this, would get in on it and try to, I've read them, they would mimic what they think Italians sound like, but they'd be writing in English. So it sounds like Super Mario talking,
God.
But anyway, so everyone's getting in on this, right? Now, Jim Colosimo, like I said, he wants to be more in high society, even though let's not discount what a vicious thug he is.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's
sex trafficking to build his empire.
And it's brutal, and it's based on rape and violence and assault and then discarding these women, right? But he also wants to keep what's his. He wants a guy to handle all this shit that he doesn't really want to handle anymore. And that is where John Torrio enters the picture. So, John Torrio, I will say without a doubt, I would go so far as to say is the most important mobster of the 20th century.
Wow.
I put him above Lucky Luciano. I put him above Capone. I put him above all these guys because he was the guy with the vision. Everyone I'm describing was influenced by him.
Wow.
But
why isn't he more well known? Or is he?
Because that's what he wanted it that way. You know what I mean?
That's boss. I feel like the really, really good mobsters actually weren't interested in fame.
Well, that's exactly it, right? I included these two photos of Torrio on the left and the right because he's trying to avoid the photographers. Mm-hmm. It's not Jim Colosimo liking being seen, right? In this sense, John Torrio is the complete opposite. We have the portrait in the middle, which shows him a little more. He's 4 years younger than Colosimo. His real name is Donato Torrio. He emigrated from southern Italy as a 2-year-old and grew up in New York, right? Now he originates in the 5 Points gang, which we talked about last week, which also gave us Frankie Yale, which also gave us Al Capone, right? He runs an offshoot called the James Street Crew. And Capone would later say in life, quote, "I looked on Johnny like my advisor and father and the party who made it possible for me to get my start." And he's 17 years older than Capone. He's more like a father than a big brother in many respects, right?
I think it's also of note, he kind of does just look like a normal guy, so he can blend in a little bit more. I mean, there's no mustache, there's no cane.
This is absolutely right. He's a completely opposite personality to Colosimo, right? He wears simple, conservative, well-cut suits. His daily routine when he gets to Chicago, and we'll talk a little bit about how he gets there, but when he gets there, he leaves in the morning, goes and works in the brothel, doesn't cat around with the girls, comes home, plays pinochle with his wife, who he's, probably mostly faithful to. Not flashy at all. Only jewelry he wears is his wedding ring. And that's it. And that's his life, But what he has and what Colosimo notices is he has brains, which Al Capone notices too, looking up to him. His office is within sight of Al Capone's home as a kid in Brooklyn.
So they go way back.
They go way back, yeah. And he's also the mentor of Frankie Yale, the Brooklyn hitman, right? He's the guy who has the vision, despite all the conservatism of how he looks, right? His dream is that organized crime could be run like a business in a way that it's not being run right now, right? Because we have the machines, we have the hinky-dink Kenna machine. That's sort of a mob thing, but
we need to professionalize it.
It's like this political thing where it's all about votes. It's not really about the crime, you know? All right, so you got that. And you got the youth gangs, like the ones Frankie Yale and Al Capone are running around in. And that's, it's kind of thuggish. He has a different thing in mind.
He's like, I'm going to take these from gangs to the mafia. He's sort of the godfather of organized crime, would you say?
I think so. And he starts popping up in the newspaper. The first mention I could find of him was in 1907. He's described as a boxing promoter. And at that time, he's already moving around the country through Chicago. That's probably how he meets Colosimo. Often it's falsely reported that they were related. I don't think that that's true. That he was his nephew. But it's to explain the fact that Torrio really endears himself to Colosimo. Mm-hmm. So in 1909 or so, when Colosimo is starting to deal with this shit with the Black Hand, he thinks this would be a good guy to handle all this sort of shit as my right hand,
I need help.
Now, Colosimo's not above getting his hands dirty himself. He kills some of them in a ambush, right? And one at one drop point for a ransom. But then the John Kobler book describes how in November 22nd, 1911, Torrio is brought to Chicago to handle another Black Hand extortion. The meeting, or the place that they're supposed to drop the money, is on Archer Avenue under the Rock Island Railroad overpass. And John Torrio has it arranged that they shotgun these three guys, blow them to pieces, right? The one who survives long enough to get to the hospital, Jim Colosimo, visits his hospital room to lord it over him that I fucking got you, you know?
So they seem like a pretty good match here.
They are. And, you know, Torrio does his dirty work for him, right? Colosimo doesn't really want to get his hands dirty. He wants to go pal around at the nightclub, you know? So Torrio is going to do things like, and again, we don't want to like, we never want to undersell how fucking vicious these guys are, right? At the time that the Levy District is falling apart in the early 1910s, when Torrio is spending more and more time in Chicago, a woman speaks out about what is happening there, about the pimping, the sex trade, the kidnapping, named Jenny Cavallari. She goes into hiding in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Two men posing as Justice Department officials pick her up. She's found murdered. Those men happen to be James Street gangsters under John Torrio. But by murdering this poor woman who spoke out against this sex trafficking, John Torrio makes the case go away for Jim Colosimo. Like this.
So unless you start thinking they're cool,
right? Like
let's remember.
Take a beat. I mean, he's involved in murdering a cop for trying to crack down on the brothels. Cop murder, surprisingly common among these guys and unpunished. Like really quite remarkable.
That's interesting.
You know, I mean, yeah, like if you're an honest cop, you actually had a target on your back, you know? So he's involved in that, you know? And the problem is, as Jim Colosimo is getting bigger and bigger, he doesn't need Hinky Dink Kenna anymore. He has a line straight to the mayor, and John Torrio is supercharging this business.
Yeah, is there a competition between Hinky Dink and...
I mean, this guy's off the leash now.
Yeah.
He's more power. He's not exactly more powerful than them, but he's becoming his own thing.
He's emerging.
Right? Which is what John Torrio wants. He wants their own thing that's not relying on these guys because they don't need these guys.
And they're Italian.
That's the other thing.
Hinky Dink.
We got to funnel it through these Irishmen? No. Right? So that's what they're doing. And they have another brilliant tactic, right? If the Levy District is shut down, then let's just open brothels wherever we can, where no one's going to bother us.
Why not next to the restaurant, you know?
What's funny, very funny you mentioned that, because a block away from the restaurant in 1919, the Four Deuces is opened. 2222 South Wabash, Four Deuces.
After I pick up syphilis, I want the endless spaghetti, you know?
A million yards of spaghetti.
Million yards.
Oh, man. What would I talk about a never-ending pasta bowl. I mean, geez, you know? But yes, the Four Deuces is one of these installations. Another is in Burnham and the far, far south side. They call it the Roadhouse strategy. Places where they can corrupt these hinky-dink towns, turn everyone into a watchman, you know, protect their brothels. But at the Four Deuces, as a bouncer, they need a guy.
Oh, I know a guy. From New York.
Who can handle himself, who has reasons to be out of New York. That's going to be Al.
Yeah, perfect. So Colosimo, he's bouncing between his famed restaurant, his new brothel.
Everything is going gangbusters for Jim Colosimo, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got
it all.
He's got it all.
The American dream, really.
He does. He has John Torrio by his side as his loyal general, like executing his orders. And that means he can take a step back from the street because John Torrio's taking care of it, right? And that's when she walked in.
Oh.
And who was she? 19-year-old Dale Winter.
And that is a name.
Dale Winter is a girl, first of all, a woman.
Thank you. Well, barely.
Yeah, 19. Sort of. Yeah. Pretty old for the Levy District, I got to say, unfortunately. But what has happened is that Jim Colosimo meets her, and it changes his life. Dale Winter is a beautiful young singer who, in 1913, Colosimo was introduced to. She starts singing. It's suggested that she starts singing in his restaurant. This is an interesting girl. Again, from Ohio, has traveled around the country trying to be a star, had a aborted tour of Australia that falls apart. It's bizarre.
Okay.
She moves to Chicago with her mother, is penniless, is singing at a church.
It's a Gypsy Rose.
Oh, this is
Lee, you know?
This is such a great story, right? And he just falls head over heels for her. She's got him riding horses through the park, okay? She's got him learning English.
I can just see her singing in the restaurant.
Well,
and he spots her.
This is it, right? Like he falls in love with her. Now, here we have on the left the photo of them together, right? In the middle, we have an ad for her, like because
what happened to his wife?
That's a good question.
She's running the brothel.
She didn't go away, and she's like, "Hey, what the fuck?" You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
because this isn't very on the low, down low.
Oh no, he is head over heels in love with her, right? And she is for those listening, how would you describe her look?
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think blue eyes. She's wearing, the dark lipstick.
Mm-hmm. Miss
Like
Dale
a movie
Winter.
star.
Yeah,
and the name fits too.
Very glamorous, right? And he's obsessed with making her a star also.
Of course.
Right?
I'm sure he promises her that.
And so you asked a good question. What about his wife, who's a gang boss in her own right? Well, he's going to do something uncommon for that era, which is divorce her,
Really?
on the grounds that she deserted him. Because he made her move out,
What a stand-up guy.
He pays her off with $50,000 and elopes with Dale to Indiana. They honeymoon in French Lick, hometown of Larry Bird.
How romantic.
I know. I like Indiana. Don't get me wrong. Not the politics, but it's pretty nice. He returns from Indiana. He's in love. And here's the problem. I understand. Dale Winter, very beautiful woman. I get.
Whomst amongst
us would not want to be, engrossed in making my wife a great singer.
Yeah.
Getting her training with Enrico Caruso.
It seems like it's a little bit of a weakness, though, that's being exposed here.
Well, something else has happened in early 1920. In fact, on Al Capone's 21st birthday, which is in incredible detail, on Al Capone's 21st birthday in January of 1920, Prohibition comes into effect. What a 21st birthday party, right?
What a bummer.
Or is it?
Or is it an opportunity, Dan?
And the Chinese say, there is one character for risk and opportunity.
Oh, my God.
Right? I read that in a book. Okay? Because John Torrio, and I should say Hinky Dink Kenna, all the guys with any brains know this is going to make the sex trade look like peanuts, what's about to happen. This is the hardest drinking city in the country. Alcohol is about to increase in value by a huge amount. So Hinky Dink Kenna, for instance.
They love it. They're like, this is the best thing that ever happened to us.
It's amazing, Hinky Dink Kenna, he stores like $1 million worth of whiskey in a warehouse. He's just like, I can't wait for this to become illegal.
He's a doomsday prepper about Prohibition.
Yeah. This is going to be the best day of my life, Here's the problem. Like John Torrio is trying to get, well, here's the thing. Historians debate this.
Okay.
Was John Torrio trying to convince Colosimo to really get into this with both hands, on it? Maybe. And Colosimo was distracted. He was never that interested in bootlegging. From his view, the wine cellar he had, the alcohol for his restaurant
was too busy pimping. He's not trying to.
He doesn't see the big picture here. And actually, he doesn't want anything more. He doesn't want to be in the bootlegging world.
Like we said earlier, he's got it all. He has his restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
He has his beautiful wife. He's satisfied, which we rarely see.
It's very interesting, right? He likes what he has, and he doesn't actually feel like he needs more. But to the guys on the street, this is, he's gone soft, right? He's
weakness,
right? And so some interesting things are happening while he's in bliss with Dale Winter, right? The first is that, and this, Mario Gomez, a historian, found this, which I find amazing, just randomly mentioned in a New York newspaper April 27th, 1920, John Torrio is spotted in Brooklyn having dinner with Frankie Yale. It's in the social register or whatever, and a couple other important gangsters in New York, right? That's April 27th, 1920. May 11th, 1920, Jim Colosimo is in the restaurant, tending to business, talking with the chef. He loves running things in the restaurant. He takes delivery of alcohol. He's checking every case. He loves running the restaurant, you know? John Torrio has called in sick that day, but says that at 4 p.m. there's going to be another shipment of beer coming in. You have to receive it. Okay. He goes to a front room, possibly to use the phone.
I'm scared.
He walks in there, and from behind, bop, bop. One hits the wall, the other bullet hits him in the head. Back of the head, never had a chance. Jim Colosimo collapses to the floor. Other people in the restaurant hear a couple bangs, run over. He's dead before he hit the ground.
Where's Dale?
Dale was out shopping.
Women be shopping.
I wish I was making that up, but it is true. She says she had gone downtown, this is from the Tribune, on a shopping trip with her mother. She carefully quoted his last remarks to her. He told me, "You don't need to earn a living now. You can rest and study and rest and sing and rest and perform in the auditorium. That was the thing we were silliest about, my becoming a great singer someday." So, folks, 555, come on now. Prohibition has just begun. And you're making your wife a singer? You gotta go.
Yeah.
This is not the game
But
plan
it's
here.
interesting, like, why couldn't they just let him do his thing? Like, what? He wasn't threatening them, was he? In any way? Like,
Here's now you hit upon the issue. Who did this, right? The chief of detectives of the CPD is down there immediately because he knows what a big deal this is, right? And there's a manhunt quickly for this. They pull a description of the gunman from a porter who works at the restaurant. And let me find the description here. From the Tribune, Porter believed he'd seen the probable killer. A man between 25 and 30 years old, 5'6" or 8 inches tall, fat face, dark complexion, black derby hat, black overcoat, patent leather shoes, starched white collar. This is the spitting image of Frankie Yale, chief hitman of Brooklyn, acolyte of John Torrio.
I knew it was Torrio. I had a feeling.
I mean, you know, you
He's
ask why.
Yeah.
Because he wants his machine. If he takes him out, it's not just that you got to get this guy out of the way. It's that I control your businesses now. You know, I control your empire.
Yeah.
Now, Frankie Yale happens to be in Chicago that day. It is confirmed. Police stop him at the train station on the way back to New York. They have no reason to stop him at that point, or to hold him, I should say. The waiter identifies Frankie Yale from a photograph, is brought to New York to identify him in person, and takes one look at Frankie Yale, the scariest human being.
I said, not him.
I don't know who that is. Yeah, never seen him before in my life, you know. Goes on back. He's fine. Lives a nice, long life. And what follows, you know, John Torrio is crying. He's a brother to me. I would never do that. You know, all that, right? And the Chicago Tribune, disgusted, on May 15th, 1920, describes his funeral. 3 judges, 8 aldermen, an assistant state's attorney, a congressman, a state representative, leading artists of the Chicago Opera Company are listed as honorary pallbearers, along with gamblers, ex-gamblers, dive keepers, and ex-dive keepers. I don't know why you have to distinguish. Everyone's
coming
there,
out.
right? Let's see. A cavalcade such as moved behind the funeral car of Caesar is to pay homage to the memory of this man, the overlord of Chicago's underworld, right? It is a tribute to power, regardless of the source. Jim Colosimo ruled in his world. Raised to the throne of the half-world, he was a maker and breaker of political aspirations, right? Until he wasn't. Until he was worm food, right? So look, was it the ex-wife? Was it Blackhanders? It was John Torrio. He did it. He brought Frankie Yale in from Brooklyn. They got rid of this guy.
And I have a feeling that Capone is able to fully rise with his boss, Torrio.
Listen, for now, Al Capone, shortly thereafter, comes to Chicago permanently. And he's the guy outside the Four Deuces, now controlled by John Torrio, saying, hey, come on in. We got girls upstairs, blah, 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 gambling, et cetera, et cetera. He's starting out low, but he's starting a new life in Chicago. And he's there at the ground floor of a very, very good thing, which is Prohibition. Because what John Torrio knows, and now he's in the driver's seat, is Chicago is going to be the city for Prohibition, right? It's going to be a logistical hub. The same reason that the Sinaloa cartel considered it the most important city for fentanyl in the United States. You can traffic it to everywhere in the country through the railroads, the trucks, everything.
It's a good location.
It's a good location. They're going to buy a lot of drugs there, or in this case, alcohol, right? So logistically, it's great. It's a hard drinking city. That's great. And it's going to be the place that John Torrio feels he can build his national crime syndicate, which is going to handle all crime like a business and cut out these stupid fucking feuds that he is disgusted by, that he considers like part of the old country. Doesn't have to be that way anymore. No more of this Jim Colosimo romantic shit. And Al Capone's going to be by his side for it.
What happens to the restaurant?
The restaurant goes on. It chugs along, actually, for a few more decades. Then it becomes a black church, which is a sign of the changing demographics of Chicago. So, all things change. It fades. It becomes a new slum, sadly, due to a new type of, warehousing of the poor in slum districts, and everything old is new again, right? But for Al Capone, it's going to be the start of his dreams.
Change is good.
Oh, yeah. Next week on the saga of Al Capone.
Prohibition, baby.
What is Prohibition? Am I Prohibition? No, I'm not. Prohibition, how did it happen? How did we ban alcohol in the drunkest country and city on earth,
But also, Prohibition, that era in our history, is kind of sexy. It's fun.
And did you know the Klan was involved?
No, I did not.
I did. But I'll be talking about it.
Tune in next week.